Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Susan McGuire, Director of Professional Development at ACCE, and I'm happy to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar. Today, we're going to present another webinar in our From the Winner's Circle series of webinars presented by Chamber of the Year Award winners. We're delighted to have Jamie Jolly, President and CEO of the Plano Chamber of Commerce, and Jamie will present on the Chamber's partnership with its longtime member Legacy Texas to open new chamber offices and offer a business center with cost-effective, professional shared space for members to work, connect, and grow their businesses. So before I turn the program over to Jamie, I just have a few housekeeping notes. First, attendees are in listen-only mode during the webinar to avoid background noise. And second, after the presentation, we will have time for some questions. You can ask your questions by using the question function of the webinar. The question box is on the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Just type in your question, and you can do that during the presentation or after, and I will read the question to Jamie after her presentation. If we run out of time and don't get to your question, or if you have a question that you would prefer to discuss with Jamie individually offline, you can get in touch with Jamie. She'll have her contact information in the presentation. Or we at ACCE can also get in touch with you afterwards if you've typed in a question and we have run out of time. So no worries, we will get to all of your questions. And third, the webinar is being recorded and it will be up on the ACC website on the ACC University webinar page by Monday, March 18th. And I will tell you how to get to that page when we get to the end of the webinar. Also, the webinar presentation slides are already uploaded to the webinar panel. That is on the right-hand side of your computer screen under Handouts. Just click on the presentation to download it. If you can't download it for any reason or you prefer not to download until afterwards, that's not a problem. I will post the presentation slides along with some other resources along with the webinar recording. So with that, I would like to introduce our speaker today. Jamie Jolly joined the Plano Chamber of Commerce as President and CEO in September 2010. Under Jamie's leadership, the Plano Chamber received a 5-star accreditation from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in 2015 and ACCE Chamber of the Year honors in 2018. Previously, Jamie served as the Executive Director for the Greater Dallas Restaurant Association. Before that, in her role as Director of Public Affairs for the Real Estate Council, Jamie was key in securing funding and support for the Woodall Rogers Tech Park, now referred to as Clyde Warren Park, in downtown Dallas. She also served as a lobbyist for the Collin County Association of Realtors, an organization focused on the protection of property rights. Jamie earned her CAE, her Certified Association Executive Credential, her IOM from the Institute for Organization Management, and her CCE, her Certified Chamber Executive, in 2018, and is a member of the American Society of Association Executives, the Plano Rotary Club, a board member of the Texas Association of Business, and Texas Chamber of Commerce Executives. She is a Leadership Plano Class 30 graduate, City of Plano Government Academy graduate, and named Collin County 40 Under 40 by the Collin County Business Press. Jamie has a degree in sports marketing from Florida State University and an undergraduate degree in kinesiology and sports studies from Texas A&M Commerce. So thank you, Jamie, for being with us today, and take it away.
Great. Well, thank you for the introduction, and I'm so excited to kind of be sharing a very unique and special part of our history here at the Plano Chamber. So I'm just going to dive in as we kind of go through how we came to partner on a new facility and a new business center that serves our members. So moving through this, let me make sure. Oh, there we go. Okay. So again, you heard my introduction, again, our organization is based here in Plano, Texas. We have, I believe on this next slide, to give you a little bit of our demographics just so you understand our background. Our membership is roughly 1,200 member businesses representing about 165,000 employees here in North Texas. And also, as was mentioned, we were recognized as 2018 Chamber of the Year. We have 9 full-time staff, 2 part-time, and 2 contractors, as well as a board of directors that's made up of 24 directors and 4 advisory directors. So, a little bit about where we are today. This is a picture of our new facility, and we're very proud of our new facility. It includes a business center that is free to our members and free to the customers of Legacy Texas Bank, who is our partner in this endeavor. This project truly has changed the image and the reputation of the Chamber, and I'll kind of walk through where we've been in the last 70 years as an organization and why we felt like this new facility was very necessary in today's business world in Plano. So let's start going back to, gosh, in the 40s, we were founded. Someone donated land to us. No one really knows exactly who. I've had a hard time finding out. We think it was what used to be Southwestern Bell Telephone. They actually donated land in downtown Plano, which is now a historic downtown designated area. And the land sat vacant for several years. There was a trailer that was put on the land in downtown at the time. I think that was probably in the early 70s. And then there was a facility built. And on the left of that slide, you can see what that facility looked like. And so a lot of people would often say, oh, y'all are in the old house in downtown Plano. And the rough part of that is that it was never a house. It was always built for a chamber, but it did look like this colonial house, and it kind of stood out in downtown, especially in recent years, because our downtown has gone through a major redevelopment. This facility is on 15th Street in downtown Plano, which is our main street in our historic area. So it really had a look and a feel for small business, which is key to our membership, as most chambers, most of our members are small business. But our community was evolving, and so we had some challenges, and we were growing. We had gone through some fast growth. So then you have a building that was built, and we had an opportunity for some expansion or to move. And so starting back in about 1990, they actually started the conversation of what is our next facility. And the decision was made to go ahead and stay in the current facility and to expand the facility to better serve our members. And so we needed more room, and we added on to the building a conference room that would seat about 100, along with bathrooms and kind of a lobby space where people could gather. It took a capital campaign, and they were able to raise the money to fund the addition. Only bad part about that is when they added on, it took away a lot of parking spaces. And so parking quickly became a challenge for that location. If you look at the map on the left there, it kind of gives you the lay of the land in Plano in 1995 as far as how many members we had in each zip code, and then also how many potential members we had, total businesses in each of those zip codes. And so you can see there was a large concentration of business that was in 75074, which is where our chamber office was located. In the next 10 to 20 years, we've seen a major change and a shift in where that development is, and we're seeing more and more businesses in the 75024 and 75093 zip codes. So just to give you a little idea of why we still had some challenges. Fast forward to the next couple of years. I came on board in 2010, and that was a period of growth for us as a city and an organization, but just a lot of growth and a lot of change in our community. And so we were no longer kind of the Main Street suburban city. We had recruited major corporations to join our workforce, and with that we brought a more global, diverse population into Plano. And so major corporations that were involved, obviously in this picture you see Capital One. The top left is the Toyota North America new campus, which was built in 2015-17. We also welcomed FedEx Office and Liberty Mutual and JP Morgan Chase. All within a very short amount of time, they brought major either headquarters or regional headquarters to our city. And most of those were located in our western corridor of our city, which is called our Legacy Business Development area. And so, again, it kind of changed the dynamics of our community, which led to some changes within our chamber and how everything from where we were located to really the programming that we offered for our members and how do we best serve this very different type of business member and business client. And so lots of good changes. And with that, when all those things were happening, we decided to assemble our facility task force. So we were sitting in the older building in downtown Plano and trying to decide what was our next chapter and what did we want to do. And so this facility task force was convened. It was made up of community leaders, businesses, also people from the city, from the Historic Downtown Association, from the Legacy Business Park. We tried to make sure we had a good representative body that would make this decision because we knew it was a major change for the chamber. So the purpose for the facility task force was to obviously explore future facility options, and we wanted to increase accessibility to members and maximize our asset value. When this facility task force was convened, just to give you an idea, it was right after the recession. The chamber actually had about $100,000 in debt that we had taken out, a line of credit on our building. And we were in a rebuilding phase. We were adding members, we were reorganizing our staff, we were reprogramming and things like that. So it was a time of change for us, and we were trying to figure out how do we also factor in the facility. We identified some key performance indicators, so we wanted to make sure that we had a plan that addresses all aspects of facility needs. So yes, we needed an office for staff, but more importantly, we needed a place for business to gather, and we needed a place that really personified what the Plano business community was about. A chamber office that members can be proud of, that's conveniently located to serve members' needs and maximizes use of space. And so in our old facility where we were actually housing 2 or 3 people in one office because it was built when offices were much larger and our staff had grown, and so it just wasn't a great environment for our staff. And then it was an aging facility. There had been delayed maintenance, and it obviously needed some attention, and we were going to have to spend money if we did stay there to make some adjustments and some changes. Effective use of business expertise of chamber members to evaluate our needs and make decisions. So we didn't want to just do this in a vacuum. We wanted to include our members. We wanted to include their expertise and make sure that we looked at every potential opportunity. And then our desired outcome was a facility that projects a professional image for the chamber, its members, community, and visitors while serving the needs of the membership. Again, with the changes in our business community, we felt like our image had changed, and we needed to really look at how the chamber was being personified in the building that we had and just the people that we were welcoming in through our front doors and things like that. So it was a good opportunity that the task force met for 24 months. And part of what they worked on were identifying some factors to consider in looking at whether we stayed in our facility, we remodeled it, we moved, what we were wanting to do in the future. So really it started with a desire to remain true to our mission. We wanted to focus on the fact that we wanted to provide the best value for our members and really support our business community. So how could we do that as an extension through our facility? What are the needs of our membership? So parking, as I mentioned, became a huge challenge in our old space. They actually had built an apartment complex right behind us on the opposite side of the road. And thank goodness they put public parking in the bottom 2 decks of the apartment garage so that we had parking on certain days when we needed it for major events. We also needed a professional space for our members, so we wanted to see what the opportunities were there. We had a lot of small businesses that needed places to meet, and Plano's not the cheapest when it comes to office rent, so we felt like there might be some opportunity there. Future growth potential for new members, so looking at the map down there on the bottom right, that was our membership in 2014. We kind of plotted everybody and said, where are they and where's our growth? Our growth, again, was in that 75024 zip code. And then also we were seeing a lot of growth to the north of us. Our community to the north is Frisco. And a lot of those businesses that were coming into the kind of the business corridor in Frisco wanted to do business with our chamber members. So we were seeing a lot of growth to the northwest corner of kind of our region, our area. State of the current facility and current operating costs. So in the current facility, for us to do anything, we would have had to upgrade all electrical and also put in a fire suppression system, because with the addition, we had exceeded a certain square footage, and the code had changed. And so just doing those two things was going to cost us over $300,000. And a member walking in the front door 2 days after we did that would not recognize a single thing except for sprinkler heads. And so we felt like that wasn't the best use of our member dollars, especially coming out of a rough economy and a recession. Opportunities for relocation. So we really wanted to make sure we understood what were the chances of us finding great space that would accommodate our needs and our members' needs, and so being very open-minded. Location that was more centrally located to our business community and our membership. So on that map on the bottom right, this black star on the far right is our old facility. The black star kind of in the middle is our current new facilities location, and that is the geographic center. So when we did this map, the black star was just there showing the geographic center of our city, and it just so happens that's where we ended up landing in our new facility. So we felt like that was a good factor, a good thing to consider when we were looking at relocation. We developed some options for consideration. So we put out a request for proposals, and in that request for proposal, we asked for everything. We said, here's the Chamber of Commerce today. Here's what we think our needs will be in the future. We're open to either redeveloping the current site that we're on to accommodate a larger facility and more parking. We're open to partnering with a different organization out in the community to build a facility or remodel a facility. So again, we didn't know what we were exactly looking for. We were hoping to keep an open mind and see what opportunities came forward through that process. We did complete a space plan scenario, so we went through the process of saying, okay, if we have 12 staff today, how much square footage would we need? What's the ideal meeting space? Those kinds of things. So we had a general space plan, but again, it depended on what opportunities were brought forward, what that would end up looking like. We set up meetings with our strategic partners. So one of the meetings that we happened to set up during that process was with Legacy Texas, which is one of our longest members. They actually joined, I believe, in 1948, 2 years after we were developed. And the reason we met with them, their CEO was a former board chair with us, and also they had gone through a merger. They had taken another regional bank and merged together, and as a result, they had a lot of real estate. So our thought was they might be wanting to sell something, and so that's one of those meetings. Again, we didn't know what we were asking for, but we said, hey, do you mind if we sit down and have a conversation? Other potential sites included SMU in Plano, which was a training facility in our western corridor, and then we had a mall that was going through a redevelopment. It was a mall that was built and opened the day after 9/11, and it has always kind of struggled a little bit, but they had started to see some redevelopment opportunities and had put in a children's theater and other things within the mall. So they were very interested in talking to us and seeing if that was an opportunity. Another one that I didn't put on here was our junior league and also our realtor association, our board of realtors. What we all realized was the realtors and the chamber would utilize the space during the day. We have a lot of functions during business hours, whereas junior league functions were after hours. So we were trying to figure out if there wasn't a way to do a shared facility. In the end, it just didn't work out with the timelines that each of those organizations had, but it was definitely a good conversation and helped us to better develop our plan. And we also met with developers to review the possibilities of acquiring some adjacent land next to our old building. And we had several different landowners, a church, a restaurant, and individuals, and we convened that group 2 or 3 times and just had some initial conversations. We had a couple that were very interested in going in together and all of us selling at one time, but it became more evident that we needed to move more centrally located, and so that wasn't something we ended up deciding to further have any of those conversations, but we ended up selling our facility. So on this slide, you'll see on the left, that was our old facility, and there is a one-way street. That Municipal Avenue is a one-way street, which has always presented a few challenges. And then when we added the second part of the building, which kind of is where the peak is, about mid-screen, going south, we added that portion of the building. It took up a whole nother probably 20 parking spaces. And so that was the old facility. We still did not think that was where we needed to be, and through the conversations with Legacy Texas, we identified a facility that they had, which is on the right. Formerly it was a headquarters for the bank back in the 80s, or 90s, I'm sorry, and the upstairs sat vacant for about 8 years, and so they were looking at what do we do with that building. Downstairs is a branch location, which also happens to be their highest depository amount, so they were not going to close that branch location because this is the center of Plano, and they felt like that better served their customers. So that kind of started the conversation of what do we do and how do we make sure that we're all working together on the space and planning for the future. And so with that, we entered into an agreement with Legacy Texas Bank to form a partnership. And the partnership was identified as not just a new facility, but also looking at a business center partnership. And so this is a floor plan, if you will, of the 9,000 square feet that are upstairs. Like I mentioned, downstairs is the branch location. The chamber actually is housed, if you look at that floor plan on the left side, you kind of see the office space and the cubicles. That is where the chamber is housed. The rest of the space is shared space in the sense that that is our business center that we manage for Legacy Texas, and I'll talk a little bit in detail about that. So starting with our partnership, we really had to look at how do we structure this long-term so that it's a win for the bank, it's a win for the chamber, it serves our members. I'm sure all of you who come from the chamber world, one of your questions would be, you know, how do you do that with one bank when you probably have 30 banks in your backyard? So that was something we had to consider. So we wanted to make sure that we structured it soundly and that we really thought through how this partnership would work. And so it was about a 2-year process to come up with the overall plan of how we would do this. But in the end, I think it's been a really good structure, and it's really served both organizations well. The sponsorship agreement on the left there is in the lease, so it's actually a part of the lease, an attachment. We made sure that if we had any member that came to us and said, well, why do they have their logo on the business center, or how does this work, that we could actually share this part of the lease with them so they would understand how the partnership is. It's a sponsorship, and in return for a discounted amount for the space that we lease to operate the chamber space, we actually provide certain benefits. They provide access to the space. We provide staffing for the business center. So it's an extensive partnership that's outlined that gives both parties benefits, so that we felt like it was a good partnership. The middle there is some of the press that went out. We actually engaged a company to do some press for us as part of this partnership, but also just on moving the chamber and why we felt like the time to move it was now. And then on the right-hand side, a little insider knowledge, but this is what really kind of sealed the deal for me. They tore the space back to the very studs, and they spent $1 million renovating the space. We were not responsible for that cost. They knew they wanted this business center to be successful, to be professional. They invested $1 million. In return, we entered into a 5-year renewable lease, so we can renew up to 10 years at the same amount, and then at that point we'll negotiate the lease. But again, they came in and did a lot of the upgrades. We were responsible for the portion that houses the chamber, which is roughly about 1,500 square feet. So we actually pay rent on that space, but we operate the full business center, and we cover the overhead of that staff that manages the business center. Some of the fun things we did as we were going through this partnership, and I'm not going to play the video because I understand it doesn't play well over a webinar, but I'll send you a link in the materials. So we actually did a hard hat tour. We took them behind the scenes because a lot of our members remember this bank being here and being headquartered, and they remember dark hallways and paneling and things like that. So we wanted to help create the vision for them. So about every few weeks I'd come in and do pictures or do this was actually a full tour that we did so that people could get excited about our new space. We also wanted to communicate with our members. We wanted to make sure they understood what to expect and the timeline, and we wanted to get them excited. It was a big change for us. So on the bottom part of that slide, you'll see we had a communications and marketing plan about what we needed to do to communicate the move. We sent out postcards in advance on the top left there. We put notice of the address changes in all of our mailings, and then that was our email signature telling everybody, okay, we're in our new space, we've made the move. First thing we did, like every good chamber does, we hosted a ribbon cutting, and we also threw a party, and it was a great party. So finally the day had arrived. We moved in on, I believe it was like a Tuesday, and we did our ribbon cutting on a Thursday. It was insane. But we had two separate events. We did a VIP event with the members of the Legacy Texas Board and some of our VIPs that was in the evening. And then we also had an event during the day for all membership to come through and do a ribbon cutting and a brunch. And we welcomed our state rep and really had a great event. Everybody finally got to see the space. We actually had to quarantine the space because during construction, people would come into the bank and they would make their way up the stairs and help themselves to a tour. So we actually had to build kind of an obstruction so they weren't able to do that anymore because they were sneaking a peek before the time to unveil it. But it's a great space, and one of the things we wanted to make sure in setting up the space is that it truly added value for our members and that it had a major community impact. Plano is about 98%, our land is about 98% grown out and built on, and so we only have 2% left to develop, and so there's not a lot of space here to start with. And so one of the things we thought of is we wanted to offer a space where people could come in and have larger meetings, including different community organizations and nonprofits, and so we wanted to make sure that value was seen throughout the community, not just the chamber and our business members. We created an online portal, and within this portal at the top left there, it's on our website, and they can go in and actually complete a user agreement. So the user agreement kind of lays out the terms of how and who and when can you use the business center. You can do an online room reservation. So we have, actually there are 5 rooms that can be reserved online. So we have a small conference room, a large meeting room. We have a media space that has a large screen with seating for about 5, and then we have 2 small private offices that will seat up to 4. And so people can go online. They don't have to wait and call us during business hours. They can request all this information. The actual application is through WUFU, and it comes through to our business center manager, who's part of our chamber staff, and she takes the request from there and then adds that information into an Outlook calendar so that we can set the space accordingly, and I'll kind of talk through that in a second. We also track usage. If you're on Chamber Master, you'll recognize that screen up on the left there. We use it as an event, so we track it as an event in our system every Friday. Judy, our business center manager, goes in and puts in who uses the business center and is it in the AM or PM. And this really allows us to understand the tracking the usage, but also we can call on people that are maybe here, but they're not a member, but maybe they're using the business center as a Legacy Texas customer. And so it allows us to recruit new members. And then also when we're doing retention calls, it shows up in our statistics page for each of our members so that we can refer to, oh, and you're a business center user. How do you like that amenity, and so on. And so it also became very helpful whenever we were addressing a challenge with office hours, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then we also, on the bottom right, it's great to have technology, but at the end of the day, when they come to the front door, we had it on a computer and people didn't like that. It was too cumbersome, so we actually just have people sign in, and then Judy actually inputs these. So One of the things I would like to get this automated, but the system we had just seemed too cumbersome for users, so we're still working through some of the logistics. The Business Center as a community asset, it truly is that. It features open benching space so people can come in, they can sit. We have high-speed Wi-Fi, coffee bar. We also provide a networked printer so they can print color copies straight from their laptops. We have a shredder. We have just basic workspace where they can go in and staple things, put together packets, kits, whatever it might be. And then we have some unique seating. You'll see at the top left the orange chairs. They're kind of like little huddle chairs, and a lot of people like to work in that space and makes for a nice work environment. Here are some pictures of our users. So during any day, nothing gets me more excited than walking through the Business Center and seeing people actually working together and doing business. That's what we were really hoping when we created this space. And so we've welcomed quite a few users in the last few years, and I'll talk about that, our stats. That's our logo at the front, and then, of course, Legacy Texas has their logo as part of their sponsorship. We do actually host a lot of community events. That bottom right corner is a welcome reception for our new superintendent of schools, and then, of course, our big ribbon cutting that we hosted here when we opened the center. One of the things that we're most proud of is that we do believe that this Business Center was one of the factors in us being chosen as Chamber of the Year, and so we were excited to bring home that trophy in 2018. And you can just see it creates a great environment. On the bottom right, people are grabbing breakfast before one of our meetings, and they're able to gather in that space. We also collect testimonials. We want to make sure that we're sharing the message with potential members. And what I like most about it is when we established this, we thought it would be all small business. And what we've realized is it's not just small business, but we're also seeing large corporations that utilize the space. And so Costco is one of our great partners, and the sales rep is in our building almost every day. In between meetings, he comes in, he's able to print, he's able to work, he's out in the field. So he put together a great little message. And then also one of our members on the right-hand side that has been looking for a long time for a private office and realized that it wasn't cost-effective, but more importantly, she felt like our space was so much more professional and well-lit and well-organized than anything that she was seeing out in the market. And so she's one of our happy users, and we see her quite a bit in our space, which is wonderful. So talk a little bit about the financial impact, the overall impact, so that we get a good picture. We negotiated a multi-year lease, and part of that is we rent the 1,500 square feet that are dedicated chamber offices. We do that at $15 a square foot. Right now, that's about $23 to even, I would say, $28 below market rent out in our marketplace today. We have access to all 9,000 square feet for meetings, business center, activities, our member functions, things like that. Also within that lease, it includes our janitorial service and electrical. And really what gained me rock star status with my team was part of our lease was negotiating the staff of the bank to actually come in and set up our meeting rooms. So if any of you operate a space with a meeting room, you know, I mean, we used to have to do it in our old space. You'd have to put up tables, take down tables, move chairs, all that. Well, part of our lease negotiation is they have someone that comes every day to our space, and they're responsible for setting up our meeting space according to a chart, a diagram, and it saved us so much time on our staff and just the wear and tear, and it makes it really nice for everyone. We saved about $13,000 to $23,000 annually based on our previous facility. So at the previous facility, 1 year right before we moved out, we had a $10,000 air conditioning bill for replacement of something with the unit. Just a lot of money that was being put into the older facility, and we were having to manage it because it was an older building. It took the staff constantly having to call repairs and everything like that, whereas now in our space, they actually manage the space, the facility, so we just call someone and they show up and they make the repairs. We're not having to manage that process. We had about $80,000 of growth in membership revenue in that first year, in addition to the previous year's growth. So we were very pleased that it was bringing in new people. It was putting us in a different part of the community, so we gained different access, and hopefully continue to see that. Overall impact. So we serve about 1,200 users a month. So whenever we sat down, I actually found my original notes from one of our planning meetings. We said we would be happy if we brought in 400 users a month. That was our goal, and right now we're at 1,200 users a month. So these are individuals that are that are coming in and just working during the day. These are people that set up meetings that are coming here, whether it's 4 people, 10 people, 20 people, 100 people. It's also our users that come through, so if we're having a board meeting or our networking meeting that we host. So again, 1,200 users a month. It's getting a lot of use. We host about 30 events and meetings monthly within the space. We only host during business hours. In our old space, we had done things in after hours, but we decided when we moved here that it would be during business hours only. One of the good benefits that really we hadn't thought through was the improved employee morale. Our old space, like I mentioned before, we were sharing older offices. It was an old facility, dark, painted very dark. It just wasn't a great environment to work in. The kitchen was not ideal, and so our new space really allows the employees to have kind of a more modern space, and we actually added standing desks to our space so that we could encourage our staff to get up and move around more. Improved image, so we went from being an old kind of dated Main Street model to being a more modern Chamber of Commerce with our new facility. In fact, we welcomed, when Toyota moved here, they hosted all their spouse events here at our chamber to help them find new jobs. We've hosted our City of Plano senior staff retreat here. We've hosted numerous board meetings. And even Legacy Texas hosts their big shareholder meeting here every year, which is kind of fun because a lot of their shareholders are original families within Plano, and they love seeing that the chamber is here in this space. Unique member benefit, we have over about 10 plus chambers within a 50-mile radius of our office here. And we wanted something different that no one else was doing, and this was something that we hadn't seen in another chamber in the North Texas region. Also, local lease rates, as I mentioned, for our members to go out and rent office space, we're continually going up. At this point, I didn't update this slide, but it was $38 plus per square foot, but now it's in the 40s, mid-40s. And so we just had small business and entrepreneurs that needed places to host meetings and be able to work, and so this really was a unique benefit. And then the private and drop-in office space. So a lot of people said, in the past they used to go to Starbucks, but you had to hope that there was seating and that there was availability. But with this, you can actually go online and reserve it in advance to make sure that you have space. And then, as I mentioned, we grew membership by 7% in that first year. And when we did our member survey, the number one thing people talked about was the business center, that they felt like that was a really cool benefit that they were getting as part of their membership. Lessons learned. I always think it's good to understand what we did right and what we did wrong. Couple of things that I would highlight, as I mentioned before, the hours. So in the past, we were open 8:30 to 5, Monday through Thursday, and then on Fridays, we opened at 7 a.m. and closed at 4 p.m. because we had a large networking meeting on Friday mornings. What we soon realized was we would show up at 8:10, 8:15 to open up the office, at 8:30, and there would be people waiting for us. And so what I asked was the staff to track Friday afternoon phone calls, Friday afternoon business usage, Friday afternoon meetings. And after a few months and looking at our user reports, we recognized that more people were interested in starting the day at 8 o'clock in the business center versus Friday afternoons. And so we moved our office hours, which the team loves. We now open from 8 to 5 Monday through Thursday, and then on Fridays we're here from 7 a.m. for our networking, but we close at 1 p.m. for the day. And that really is to better serve our members. I mean, it's a win for the staff. We get to leave early and have a little bit early day off, but more importantly, our members wanted to be able to have their 8 o'clock meetings before they go out and start their day here at the Chamber at the Business Center. So that was something we learned and we were able to adjust. We didn't prepare for the usage that we have. As far as having 1,200 people come through, there's a lot of wear and tear on furniture, on the paint, the bathrooms, things like that. So we're working with our facility group over at Legacy, Texas to really make sure that we have updated the facilities on a regular basis, that we, do a paint job every year, things like that that need to happen because of the wear and tear. Also, noise. I would say something we weren't really prepared for was the amount of noise in the business center when there's a big group in, so we've had to kind of work through that, and we set quiet hours, or we ask that, you keep conversations at a minimum, make sure that we're not interrupting people that are in the workspace. We also had to establish some rules, and you'll see that there on the room reservation guidelines. We had to lay down some rules. I mean, we had some interesting things at first when we didn't, some of these things we hadn't thought of and we added as we went along. Another big thing is we're not in complete control. In our old facility, it was our facility, we owned it, but in this facility, actually, Legacy, Texas is the owner, and so we book things a year in advance. We share the calendar in advance. We only allow our members to book space for 90 days out. So if we have a last-minute chamber meeting that comes up, there's a good chance there may not be space in the facility because it's being utilized either by the bank or by our members. So it takes us planning a little bit better and being cautious that we get all of our events on the calendar and in the space as soon as possible. As far as the lease goes, I would say we need to add in, when we go to renegotiate the lease, there's some things we'll change about maintenance and things like that. We also want to look at the cancellation fee because we offer it free for members, but the worst thing that happens is you've got 3 people interested in one day, you let the first person that called get it, and then they no-show. And you don't really have a way to keep them from doing that. So we're trying to put some guidelines in place that say, okay, the first time it's forgiven, second time there's a no-show fee, third time you're not allowed to reserve the room. Because we do have some repeat offenders, and again, it's in high demand, so we hate to turn anyone away and then not have it being used. Better AV, I would say I would probably enhance the audio-visual in the room. That's not my expertise. We had a third-party AV company through the bank come in and actually help us with that. I probably would have asked a lot more questions, but we didn't know we would have that much usage and how it would be used. And then I would say probably add a monitor in our lobby area to kind of welcome the group so that they know what group is in the building and where they need to go when they arrive, because it can be disruptive depending on how many events you have going on in one day. If there's too many meetings, everybody's walking into each other's meetings, so we're trying to identify the rooms in advance and things like that. So those are some things that we learned as we've gone through this process. Within our office space, our 1,500 square feet, I would say, it is a little tight. It was a big change going from this spread out old office with walls into a more open workspace. I think we've adjusted pretty nicely. We did have to add a new private office, so myself and our finance director have a private office simply because we have files and meetings and things like that that need privacy. We did add a vice president role, so that created a challenge. We had to add another private office simply because that person will be handling HR. And so things like that, but again, I think we all do that no matter what facility you're in. You have to look at those things as you go along. Real quick, the only other thing on this, I was going to see just some basic rules you can kind of see there, but again, I think the users, they've all been great to work with, and if there's any challenges, we typically just address it and move on. But as you can see in this picture here, I mean, it gets great usage. It's a great asset. It's a beautiful facility. Our community is very proud of the chamber. It's funny when I hear people talk about, oh, have you been over to the new facility? So something that we really enjoy, and I'm very proud of it. And I guess at this point, I can go ahead and take questions when Susan is ready and see if there's anything I can answer for the group.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jamie. What an awesome story and a wonderful facility. I wish we had something like that around here. Let's see, I don't have any questions yet. So if you have any questions for Jamie, just go ahead and type them into the question box, and I will read it out. Here we are. One question is there any situation where you would charge for the space?
Yes, there is. So one of the rooms is a very large room. It seats about 120 theater style, and you do have to pay, if you want it for 4 hours or more, you pay a $100 fee. So that is a reservation fee. And again, that's more because we have such high demand on that space that it requires. So there is, that space is one that we do require a fee for our members to rent.
Okay, here's another question. Did you increase the membership dues with the added value of use of the business center?
That's great. I'm sure that's a membership person asking that. That's wonderful. Actually, we've moved, during this process, we actually moved to a tiered dues model. So we went from our fair share model over to the tiered dues, and it was an increase at first for like our basic member at $375. Previously, it was at $350. The next level did go up pretty substantially, but that was that's all part of the tiered. So it added benefits across the table in different areas. The business center definitely is an added benefit. If I had to go back and do it again, I might have tried to, but because of the timing, it was like we were rolling it out at the same time, so people didn't really understand the benefit. Now they do, so we're hoping that that helps us with retention. And then it also helps us bring in new members. But there was not a direct increase as an impact to the move to the facility.
Okay, another question. Can you touch more on how you track the number of people entering the space?
Sure. So anytime someone comes in the front door, there is a, I'm going to thumb through if I can. I'm going to go back to a slide just so I can talk through it and show you. But when they, so if they fill out the room reservation on the right, all that does is reserve the space. No matter who comes in the building, on the bottom right you see the time in, time out, name, company, and then whether or not they've signed on to a user agreement. So we track that when they come through the front door. Everybody knows just to sign in. If it's a large meeting in the large room, we don't make people sign in, obviously. It's we just know that, okay, that meeting it's set for 100 people and there's 100 people in that room. Typically, there is a registration involved when it's a group that size, so we would have that in our system anyways through Chamber Master as a chamber program. I think the biggest thing is our partner. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to make sure is that our partner was seeing benefit, because the last thing I want to do is have to move after 5 or 10 years. And so one of the things they love is we send a monthly report with everyone that used the business center, and that's part of the agreement. They agree that we're going to send this information out, and they can call on them about being a Legacy Texas customer. So that's kind of a win-win for them. But again, we've been able to recruit all the ones that have been non-members. I would say probably 98% of them have joined the chamber.
Okay, and Jamie, what program did you say you used to reserve the rooms?
So the actual form is in WUFOO, WUFOO. So this form is built in WUFOO, and then it's sent, when they complete it, it's sent in an email format to our business center manager.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I see right now. If you all have any other questions, you can go ahead and type them in. In the meantime, just a reminder that the webinar is being recorded, and I will post the recording along with Jamie's slides that you see here, a couple other links she will send me on our ACC website on our webinar page. And you can find that on our website, www.acce.org, by clicking on Professional Development and then hovering over ACC University Online and then clicking on Webinars. So all of our webinars that we have held in the last several years are listed in reverse cron order. Just click on them to listen, and Jamie's will be right here at the top. Okay, I don't see anything else right now. So again, if you have any other questions for Jamie and you want to reach out to her individually, her contact information is on that last slide, and you can go ahead and contact her. Or if you have any questions for me or anyone here at ACCE, don't hesitate to contact me. There we go. There's Jamie's contact information. Our next ACC University webinar will be on Thursday, April 4th at 2 p.m. East Coast time. And in that webinar, we'll learn more about the St. Louis Regional Chamber's work to ensure greater racial equity in the region's workforce through its participation in the St. Louis Regional Youth Employment Coalition. Through this coalition, the Chamber has partnered with local businesses, government, and educational institutions to provide young people with pre-employment and soft skills training, along with wraparound support to reduce employment barriers such as access to reliable transportation. So you can register for this webinar on our events page at our ACC website, and you'll also get some e-blasts about that as well as we get closer to that date. So Jamie, thank you so much for presenting today, and what a wonderful achievement for you and your chamber and your community. Such a wonderful asset. We really appreciate you taking the time to present. And thank you, everyone, for your participation and your interest. Wishing you all a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you all at the next ACC webinar. Bye-bye.